Hey Changemakers, welcome to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast. I am your host, Amy Van Meel, and I'm on a mission to inspire and teach changemakers like you, entrepreneurs and budding entrepreneurs who have big dreams and have hearts to help others through their business. If you have been wrestling with the day-to-day business stuff and you're just kind of slugging through it, you're in the right place because that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about here. I'm excited for today's topic, so let's dive right on in. So today we're going to talk about getting clear on who you are serving. Now, I don't care how far along in your business you are. This is something that is always good to do again. If you've been in business for a year, 2 years, 5 years, it's good to dig into it again because the person that you want to serve, that ideal person, may have changed a little bit over the life of your business. If you are just about to get started or you're thinking about getting started and you're sort of in that what I call pre-launch mode right now, then this is really good. You must do this before you start. All right, we're going to talk about why it's important to do that down the road, but I want you to really pay attention today because this is a really valuable exercise for you. Good? Okay, so first of all, let's just talk about how do you get clear on who you're serving. If you've been in business for a little while, it doesn't matter how long you've been in business, if you have that one customer, that one client that you just adore and you wish you could multiply over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, that is your ideal client. So we're going to talk about today, this is your ideal client avatar. All right. So when I say ideal client avatar, I'm going to say ICA. Follow with me. This is who we're after. So your best client now becomes the model for your ICA, right? So look at your client and figure out, write down simple things like, okay, what's their gender? What's their age? You can write down their specific age and think about it a bit like an age range. What's their financial income? Are they in a certain industry or a certain financial bracket? What are their values? What interests do they have? What do they do in their free time or what hobbies do they have? What's their personal style? And maybe you look at what's their personal history. Now, here's a really cool thing. If I look at some of my best clients in my design business, a lot of them have actually similar experiences to me growing up and dealing with their family. This is kind of wild because I certainly don't market in any way, shape, or form based on like family history, but it comes up now and again, and it always kind of surprises me that that's the kind of person that I bring in. Totally makes sense when I understand where I'm vibrating and the kind of people that I will more likely get along with. But when I say personal history, you don't have to specifically like get into the deep details of it. Just maybe think, if you've had some clients and you're like, wow, they kind of have some similar stories to me. There you go. That's part of your ICA. So getting clear means you're going to have to sit down, spend a good 20 or 30 minutes really digging into it, answer those questions. So we're looking at not just the demographics, not just like age, gender, income. We're looking at some of the softer things as well. You can call them, I think they're called psychographics. So, who are they? What do they have? What do they hold value in? What kinds of things do they want to achieve? Where do they spend their free time? All right. So it's important to get clear on who you're serving, and here's why. So a couple months ago on Netflix, my guy and I have been watching this really fascinating, I believe it was a BBC documentary, and I think it's called Blue Ocean or something along those lines. It's all about the oceans of the earth, and if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. It is just the most fascinating thing to see. It takes you from like the poles where everything's under ice and like just the animals that survive there to the deep depths of the ocean where there like sunlight never ever comes. And there are some really wild animals that are down there. And it takes it like open ocean. It follows coastlines and coral reefs. It's fascinating. I love it. We learned a ton. And I think I said, wow, that's really interesting. Like 100 times watching this series. Here's where I'm going to relate this into your ideal client. I think it was somewhere off of Norway. I believe in that area of the world. There are fishermen. So they go out, they cast a net to catch whatever the fish is. I'm not even going to pretend to remember what it was, but whatever the fish is, they're casting nets to catch them. Now, this is really interesting. They have been tracking pods of orcas, not the fishermen, but, there are researchers out there tracking pods of orcas. And they've been noticing changes in the orcas' behavior where they became more aggressive. The fishermen cast out their net, a big net, right? Because they need to catch lots of fish out of the oceans. It's a big spot. And they ended up catching an orca. Now, this is a big problem for the fishermen. It's a huge problem for the orca. This doesn't entirely make sense to me, but they had to radio into the coast or the fisheries branch to get permission to be able to drop the net to let the orca go. But in the meantime, this orca's freaking out, and with good reason. It was a male orca. It's stuck in this net. Orcas are always swimming around and it can't get out. And from what I understand, if they can't swim, if they can't move, they will die. So it is so important that orcas keep moving. So they cast this wide net, they catch something that they are not supposed to, are not allowed to, do not want to have. All right? Now, contrast that with loading a very sharp arrow into a bow and firing it at a target. With good aim, you'll hit the bullseye. You're going to hit exactly what you want to have. But that bullseye is tiny. Right? Even the target itself isn't that big. The target is not the size of an ocean fishing net. You got me? So here's why you're getting clear on your ICA. You are not putting your service or product out for everybody. You are not trying to catch the fish in the ocean and whatever comes up in the net is what you want to have, because you could catch that orca that has no business being there. You have no business serving that person. They have no business taking your services, whatever it is. You don't want to catch that type of client. So you need to be really specific. It is much better to nail that person, that perfect fit for you every time, because you're super specific on who you're serving. So when I put together, I had to dig into, and I had to do it a couple of times. It took me a bit. I had to keep digging deeper, and this is a good exercise to do. Just keep digging deeper. But when I figured out who the ICA is for Dare to Begin, I already knew that I wanted to focus on, new and solo entrepreneurs. So people who, they don't have teams of people that are already helping them do all this stuff. They may not have the resources to be able to hire on teams or get big coaching or whatever. These are people who started like me by bootstrapping the business and figuring it out on the way out. That's the kind of person that I was after. Now, I needed to get even more specific. All right, so, that's pretty specific already. I dug it down even more. So my focus is going to be primarily women. You're probably going to be, I would say, between like 25 and 40, give or take. There's always going to be outliers, but that's a good range of people. And I'm really focusing on people who are providing a service. Less so about providing a product, more so about providing a service, right? That's pretty specific. Now, I'm not getting into, they have to be doing this kind of service or they need to be doing this level of business. That doesn't really, I'm not too worried about that, because the principles that I'm teaching and the principles that I'm bringing out in the business will apply to virtually all service-based industries. And probably if you're selling a product, it would probably work there as well. But that's how specific I had to get. So when I'm casting this net out, when I'm putting out marketing materials, and when I'm, recording these podcasts for you, when I'm interacting on Instagram, my focus is not big business. I am not out there to get, to attract clients who are already doing $100, $200, $500, $800, $1 million a year. That is not who I'm after. Those people, they can afford to hire teams. They can afford to hire the big guns to come in and help them. I'm looking for the solopreneur, that person that is like, I have this burning need to build this business and I'm freaking terrified. That's who I want to talk to. So when you're thinking about your business, you need to get really clear on who are you serving. Don't you dare say to me that, Amy, everybody can use my services. No, they absolutely can't. Got it? I'm going to be totally blunt with you right here. Not everybody needs your services. Let me give you an example. Not fishing, health related. A couple years ago, I'm a little bit of a klutz. I fell down the stairs. Now, as I'm sliding down our stairs from our back landing into our basement, my boyfriend was out that evening at a guy's night, and my phone was upstairs in the kitchen. And as I'm sliding down the stairs, I'm thinking, I am going to die. I have no way to call anybody, and I'm going to be dead on the floor when my boyfriend comes home. This is what was going through my mind as I'm falling down the stairs. I reach the bottom. I realize, okay, nothing's broken. I'm relatively okay. I'm shook up because it scared the crap out of me. But all right, I can get up, I can walk around, I can move. 4 months later, I'm drying off after a shower. I lean down to dry off my leg, and my back goes out, and I can't move. And I am in incredible pain, like instantaneously. Now, thank goodness at this point my boyfriend was home because I couldn't move. I couldn't finish drying off. I could hardly get out of the tub. I couldn't, never mind trying to put on my underwear or get dressed. So I had to call him in and ask him to help me. I was in so much pain. After probably about a week, I went to the doctor, who recommended that I go see a physiotherapist. Now, this is not a positive story for physiotherapists. Understand that I think physiotherapists are fantastic, so don't get offended if you don't like what I have to say. But anyway, I go to this physiotherapist. I am seeing the therapist twice a week. I'm paying a ton of money out of pocket because we didn't have any benefits coverage to be able to cover any of that. So I'm forking out money every week to go see this therapist, and I got a little bit better, and then I didn't get any better. And I was doing all the exercises, and I was doing everything that the therapist said that I needed to do. And I asked several times, I said, should I go see a chiropractor? Because I thought, well, if this has to do with my spine, wouldn't it be good to see a chiropractor? Now, first of all, I am not a huge fan of chiropractors. I had not had good experiences. My whole family was like married to having to see a chiropractor every week. And I'm like, that's not the kind of life I want. So for me to suggest, hey, do you think maybe this is a good idea, was a big deal for me. It meant that I knew something more was going on. Now, that the physiotherapist did me a huge disservice, because she said multiple times, no, chiropractors are going to do basically the same thing that we're going to do here, so it's not going to help you. And, she's the pro, so I took what she said to be true. So fine, we keep going. Another month or 2 months goes by, and I'm like, I can't take this anymore. I am in so much pain. I am not getting better. I am spending a ton of money going to see this physiotherapist, and I'm all for paying money to get results, but I am not just to go make sure that their roster is full. I'm not there just to boost the bottom line of their business. So I reached out to a friend and I said, listen, I think I need to see a chiropractor. Can you recommend one? She recommended a chiropractor to me, and I adore this man. I think I have the most high opinion of this guy, mostly because he got me moving again. He got me walking again. So I go see the chiropractor, and like I said, I'm not big on chiropractors, but I'm like, all right, something's got to change. Now understand, at this point, I have been doing physiotherapy for 6 months. I've been in some major pain for 6 months. I couldn't do a lot of day-to-day things for 6 months, and I paid more than I care to count in physiotherapy fees. I go to the chiropractor. He does a full assessment with me. Then he sits down, asks me, what I've been doing to get better. And I tell him, and he says, well, that's really interesting. Did you know that one of your hips is 1.5 inches higher than the other? And I swear my jaw hit the floor. I said, pardon me? And he said, yeah, one of your hips is 1.5 inches higher than the other. So it's no wonder that you're not getting better, because you're completely out of alignment. So he said, the good thing is we now know what it is, and within a few treatments we can get you going. I could have cried right there. I was so happy. I was so grateful that finally somebody said, hey, I know what's wrong and I can help you get better. I stopped going to physiotherapy from that point on, because I'm like, this is not getting me any better anyway. And literally 2 treatments in, like I said, cannot say enough good things about this chiropractor. But within 2 treatments, he had me out on the ski hill. I was really worried about that. I had been down and out all summer. We were approaching ski season. I'm a huge downhill skier. I love being out in the mountains. I love, skiing. I'm not that fantastic, but what I lack in ability, I make up for in enthusiasm. I really love being out there. And so he said to me, because he knew I was getting ready for ski season. It was, approaching November, and I could hardly wait. And I said, am I gonna maybe be able to ski this season? He's like, yeah. In fact, I highly recommend you do it right away. I'm like, what? Like, 3 weeks ago, I could hardly walk. I haven't been able to put my underwear on myself for the last 6 months. Like, how can I go out in the ski hill? And he explained, why it was really good and important for me to get out there, and it was good for movement. I literally was out in the ski hill, and I spent the whole winter out in the ski hill. I was so excited. In a year, I was 100% better. Now, it took some time, and part of that time might have been because, there was a big lagging amount of time between when I initially hurt myself and before I finally found the treatment that worked. Okay? So when I talk about you are not here to serve everybody, it is not saying that your services aren't valuable. I am not saying that, what a physiotherapist does isn't valuable, but that physiotherapist did me a huge disservice by telling me that I didn't have other options, that those other options weren't going to do anything different. So when you think about your service, you need to really think about who are you focusing on and why are you focusing on that person? Why does that person need your services? So if it's coaching, focus down on what kind of coaching are you doing? Where does the person need to be in order to start coaching with you? Because let's face it, not everybody is going to be open to it. There are people who are just really closed, who are not willing to grow, who are not willing to, expand their mind and explore other options. Those people are not going to be your clients, more than likely. There are also potentially going to be people who are already on a massive track of growth. They're already doing the things. They're way ahead. And, maybe those become your elite clients, or maybe those aren't your clients at all. Maybe those clients are for a different coach. And it's okay to do that. It is okay to think, you know what? I love where you're going. You are totally on the right track. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not the coach for you. Because my goal is to get people from where they're, just starting to be open to the idea of something's got to change and I'm ready to grow my life, to, call it the middle part where, all right, they're making a point and a practice of growing and learning and busting through some of the shit that we all carry around with. If that's your client, stick with that client because you will serve them the best. Alternatively, if you're the one who's focusing on that high-end client, if you're the one who's saying all right, you've been doing the meditations, you've been doing the practice, you've been doing the personal growth events, you're already there, but you want to up level, I got you. I got you because I know where you want to go and I know how to get you there. Then how dare you serve people who don't fall in that bracket? Because you will do them a disservice. All right? That's what I'm talking about. So when I'm saying, get clear on your ICA, you're not just getting clear so you can tailor your marketing materials. That's hugely important. And that's one of the big reasons why you want to get clear on your ICA. But you want to be clear because you want to know exactly who you're serving and why. And if you're sitting in a point right now where you're just well, Amy, I just don't really know. I haven't had clients before. I haven't started yet. And this whole idea of picking one market really terrifies me. I'm really afraid this happens a lot for a lot of new businesses. I'm really afraid that I'm going to focus too small and there won't be anybody there. That is not going to happen. Now, we'll talk about it later to do some research ahead of time. It's really important to make sure that you validate your idea before you launch it out, but you want to focus on a very specific niche. Everybody says, niche down. It's super important to just niche down. If you're in the States, you're niching down. But you want to get really focused. You want to aim for the bullseye. You don't want to catch the orca. Right? I hope that this episode makes sense. I hope you understand now the value of really niching down and really focusing on who that ideal client avatar is for your business. And like I said, I definitely recommend take 20 or 30 minutes, focus on, think about that best client that you have that you would just like to multiply over and over again. Or if you're just getting started and you don't have any clients to, think about multiplying, think about who you ideally would like to serve. Now, you might be focusing on serving people because of your personal experience, okay? So when I started Dare to Begin, one of the reasons that I'm passionate about what I'm bringing out and passionate about the work that I'm doing is because I know that if I had had the information that I have now given to me in a format that I could easily action, my business would have taken off way sooner than it did. I would have become profitable way faster than I did. I would have saved myself hours and hours of headaches and tears and research and just like mind-numbing problem solving because, hey, there's already tools out there that can help me out, right? So I have a very specific ICA. I talked about that already. Like I've niched down quite a bit. And then I look at why am I serving that person? Well, I'm serving this person because I believe that there can be an easier way of doing business. I do not think that you need to struggle in order to succeed, right? We don't need to go through all the crap in order to be deserving of our success. Now, I'm going to be honest with you right now, even as I'm saying this, like it's a reminder to me that, Amy, I don't need to struggle. In this new business that I'm launching, I don't need to struggle. I don't need to struggle to prove that I'm deserving of the success that I want to get. I just read that in this book today, and I mentioned in my last podcast, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. This book just keeps blowing my mind over and over and over again. And he talks about that. He talks about some of the beliefs that he had to deal with and how they were limiting his success. So I want to make it easier for you. That is my entire goal here. That's why I give you free downloads. That's why I create the podcast. That's why I'm active on Instagram. Like my goal here is to make sure that you launch your business more easily and without all the headaches and the crap that I had to go through, because I know you got big things to do and I want to make it easier for you. All right? So in the tone of making things easier for you, I have a free download for you again today, and you can find it at daretobegin.net/ICA, just the letters. I'm going to give you a framework in that download of how do you get clear on who your ICA is. We're going to talk about a little bit like why do you want to serve that person. Super easy. Like I said, absolutely actionable. So you can get right into it right away. And then the cool thing is once you get clear on your ICA, now you can start filtering through the mess. So when I started, real quick story, and then I'll tie it up here. But when I started my design business all those years ago, the glory of having a new business is that everybody has suggestions for you for how you can grow. And I love it. I love that people want to like help you out and give you ideas. And on the other hand, I hate it because you're just like, but that's not what I want to do, right? So I had a good friend who suggested that maybe I look at painting cabinets for a while. She knew somebody who had been doing that for a while and it seemed to be doing a fairly successful business. And I'm just like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm not at all excited about that. And that doesn't align at all with the kind of person that I want to serve. That's a totally different arm of the design industry that I am just not interested in getting into. So if I wasn't clear already on who I wanted to serve, why I wanted to serve them, and how I was going to do that, then I probably would have followed down that. A lot of brand new entrepreneurs will tell you, man, I have been like a magpie. I tried this thing, and then I tried that thing, and then I did that thing, and then I thought, oh, that looks like a good idea, and oh, what's that over there? And what ends up happening is that you're fracturing your attention, so you're not focusing on one thing. And then you don't see the growth that you want to have, right? You cannot do all things at once. We just can't. Even as women, we cannot do all things at once, okay? So grab the free download, daretobegin.net/ICA. Get going on getting clear on your ICA so that you can make that impact that you want to make in the world. And like I said, don't you dare try to serve somebody who's outside of your ICA, because that person is meant for someone else. There are 7.5 billion people on the planet. We are rapidly approaching 8 billion. There is more than enough people out there for all of us to serve. I believe this 100%. So don't get caught up on trying to, bring in everybody. Focus on your niche. Focus on the person that you want to serve. And when that other person comes in, if they're trying to, well, but I really want to work with you and I really love what you're doing. If they don't align with your ICA and they don't align with why you want to serve that person, then you need to say to them with all the love in your heart, look, I really appreciate that you want to work with me and I am excited for what you want to do. Let me recommend someone who'll be better suited for you. That's all you got to do. So it's also good to know people in your industry that do other things and serve other markets, because you can recommend people across. I can almost guarantee you that the person that asked you and was begging for your services will be so grateful if you refer them to someone else who's better suited for them. Okay? Just like my whole physiotherapy chiropractor thing, if that physiotherapist had said earlier on, you know what, Amy, I got you. I totally understand what you're saying. And yeah, why don't you go explore a chiropractor? In fact, here I can recommend, 2 or 3 good ones that I know. I would have just loved that physiotherapist. Now, she called 6 months later and I'm like, listen, lady, I don't want to talk to you. I just want to move on. I'm really unimpressed with how things went. That's a totally different relationship. I would not be recommending that physiotherapist to anybody because in the end, it was such a negative experience for me, right? So grab the download, daretobegin.net/ICA, and I will catch you next week on the podcast. In the meantime, dream big, set big goals, and get out there and make the change because you have big things to do in the world. All right? I got you. I believe in you. I know that you're going to get there. And if I know that you're going to get there, I know darn well that somewhere deep inside, you know you're going to get there. I'm wishing you an amazing day, and I look forward to seeing you next week.